Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're talking about the one, the only beautiful turbo coin. All right. First off, let's start with the weekly, ladies and gentlemen. We can see we had a great weekly candle, right? Really, really solid. By some people's standards, it is kind of boring. All right, this whole weekly candle, if we take it from the literal bottom to the top, 22% range. So nothing too exciting, but it is a candle with a lot of purpose. Now, the reason why I say that, ladies and gentlemen, is because overall, this candle was looking to retest these areas over here, right? Very, very key areas. We can see, boom, bam, over here, touching a key level, key level, boom, and boom, right? Now, when we break it down to the daily, there is still a little bit of imbalance. I am nitpicking just a little bit. There's technically there's like 4 or 5% of imbalance we could fill. Now, the thing is, it doesn't have to fill it necessarily. When we got corrected, right? When we start to correct pretty much from let's just say middle of May until I guess late June, right? There was still some imbalance to go, right? There was still some imbalance to go. There was at least another 16%, and we kind of just ignored it, right? We kind of ignored it. So, this little percentage does not need to be corrected, right? It does not need to be corrected. When we go and look at something like the Fibonacci tool, take it from the recent top to the bottom, we can actually see we probably did get corrected 88%, right? Almost 88%, which is like always a key area, right? Anything past 78 to the one is in between there. You're always looking to be kind of dollar cost averaging. So we can see we did have a very, very nice solid correction. Like I said, in terms of pure trader and pure sniper mentality, I'm just thinking about this area over here because it would be literally the most fundamental. But sometimes these markets, being fundamental 80 or 90% is enough. All right, if you guys are confused, right, we have the rest of the imbalance to fill. We have the 4 hour order block, and we are on top of a massive support and resistance, right? So, it could be a area that we could potentially see happen, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily likely. Now, I will say, ladies and gentlemen, that here is the deal, right? Whether or not we look to sell off for the first day or two and to correct, we are ultimately at the end of the day going to create a reverse head and shoulders. Okay. Whether or not we sell off doesn't matter too much, right? It doesn't matter too much for me personally. Now, I'm still skeptical about the little sell off potentially. Nothing to do with turbo necessarily. It is just this Bitcoin gap, right? It is literally just the fact that we have two gaps. So we have a gap at around 118,000, 118,500, which would be a $2,000 drop. Okay. Not much, 2% for Bitcoin, but we do have this annoying gap at around 114K. Okay, so that would be around 114K. So that's already a little bit more impactful, right? That's already a little bit more impactful. That is roughly 5% drop. Most altcoins are going to drop 10%. Something like Turbo is a meme coin could drop even up to 15%. So if we were to drop hypothetically 15%, boom, that would literally kind of go right into our zone. So, I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out there in the event that we do play it out like that and we don't ignore the gap, not to panic, right? Not to panic. We understand the purpose of the drop. We understand that Bitcoin had to correct. We understand that Turbo just had a even more fundamental pullback. Okay. Because look, right? Things are looking solid. We are on the hourly, continuously trying to go up higher and higher. All right, I will say that we do have a low here, a higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, right? So we are trying to squeeze up. We are trying to squeeze up. Okay, but sometimes in life you just fail. Okay, that is reality. Because even here, right, it was looking good, better, 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 and then we got to this high over here, the way the hourly closed is we closed below it. And then eventually we just kept continuously getting lower and lower highs. Okay. And yeah, just bearish confirmation. So, you know, even though we are looking to squeeze up, I want to see a huge, nice pump. And, like I said, technically, ladies and gentlemen, we could even squeeze up to 0.0556. And that still technically doesn't mean that we are 100% bullish just yet. Okay. Right. That's what it means. But look, either way, I'm super optimistic. Plus, either way, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to create this big reverse head and shoulders, right? We have a big shoulder, we have a big head, and then we have a big shoulder here. So we are still going to be bullish, whether or not things play out soon or they take another couple more days or a week. Things still are ultimately really, really bullish. Now, this is something I wanted to discuss with you guys. Okay, this area over here, this Bitcoin dominance is getting shredded. Okay, it is getting shredded. There's a very, very high chance based off this crappy weekly that once we kind of start leaving this area, boom, this is really going to trigger altcoin season. Okay, like this is going to be like this. Okay, we're going to be like in this stage. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, just prepare your horses because I mean, this is going to be crazy. I think, for us, we really have to break this zone over here of 55, 54, 55% to see that big 20 to 30% drop, right? I do believe for altcoins, now this is important because this is relevant for Turbo, right? I do believe, we are going to create a lower low. I really, really do believe so because if we do top out here, right, this is a lower high on a high time frame. We have, this high over here, and then we have a lower high, which means there's a high chance of us staircasing even lower, taking out this point. So we could go even potentially to like 30%. So we could be looking at a 30% drop over the next 2 to 3 months. And most of it could play out within a 4 to 5 to 6 week span, especially once we kind of start cracking 54%. So, oh my God, this is so crazy. This is so crazy because I didn't really expect this, right? There were the signs, last week, but I said, let me just be patient. Let me just be patient. Obviously, I'm slightly greedy. I slightly wanted one more rally to the upside, but we'll monitor things. We'll monitor things, not to get too excited, because damn, trust me, ladies and gentlemen, things are going to be looking very, very nice. But yeah, that is ultimately it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy. You know, you guys overall are very, very positive, optimistic mindset. There should be no reason why you get shaken out now. If you survive, seriously, guys, if you survive like the whole, you know, journey, let's just say ever since January, like there's zero reason for you to ever panic at this point. Okay. We've had the big sell off, we had people getting scared with tariffs. Well, we had the war, and we're here. We're here. The markets are going to be very, very green overall for the next, let's just say, 3 to 6 months. And I'm super excited. But yeah, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoy. I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.